Okay guys, here we go again. One more video for you. In our last video, we were working on this part file here, and so far we haven't done much. But as mentioned in almost every video, this is a tutorial series for beginners. So in our last video, we're just kind of messing around with getting to know some of the sketch relations that come with SolidWorks. And we talked about the coincident relationship, which is this one right here. That's the thing that holds one thing to another. In this case, it's holding this point to this circle. There's another one over here that's holding the center of the circle to the origin of the part file. There's a couple of horizontal sketch relations as well, holding this line straight and also holding this point in line with the origin. So moving right along, I want to get into a couple of the different features that are up here into the Sketch tab. And as we can see here, we've got a bunch of drawing tools that are very similar to Illustrator. We've got the Smart Dimension tool as well, and this is the first one in the lineup. So let's click on that. And what this is it's a dimension tool. It allows you to add dimensions to your models as you're going through. Dimensions can be very helpful, as in if edits are needed in your design at any point, and if you get into professional industrial design, there's going to be edits all over the place. And in using other design programs like Rhino and Alias, where you don't have the parametric features that SolidWorks has, being able to add very detailed dimensions to your parts and then edit them later is invaluable. So very simple to use. Just click on whatever you want to add a dimension to. Here we have a circle. Let's click on it. You click on it, you get a dimension that pops off there. You click again, you're going to get this little modify box that comes up. There's going to be a number in here. You can change it to whatever you want, and whatever you change it to, it will edit this circle to be. So right now it's 1.94. Let's change that to 2. That's going to change that circle to a 2-inch circle now. Okay, let's go over here and take a look at this line here. Looks like this one's 3.05. We can go ahead and just leave that as it is, or we could change it to something else like 4. Notice how it changed that line though. Because of the coincident relationship that's holding this point to this circle, it extended the line this direction because the sketch relations are holding this side of the line in place. Okay? Alright, so that's important to recognize. Alright? So, there's other things you can do. I'm going to get another drawing tool out and we'll play around with adding some dimensions to show you how that can work. Okay, let me hit escape to drop the Smart Dimension tool. And I'm just going to grab a line tool and I'm just going to click in space, just anywhere. Okay, just draw a straight line. Okay, so the other way that Smart Dimensions can be used is is for the purpose of moving things around on your page. So, for instance, if I wanted to set a smart dimension between this line and the origin, okay, well, let's say I'm going to do a revolve. Well, the origin would always be this center line that I want to revolve around. So I can put a dimension between the line and the origin, and then I can change this dimension to move the line around. If I want to move it 2 over, well, there's 2. If I want to move it, say 5 over, there's 5. Okay. So using dimensions to move stuff around can be a really easy way to do stuff. That's a big common question that I get in my Intro to SolidWorks class is, okay, I've made a complicated sketch, but now how do I move it? And there's a couple of different ways to do that sort of thing, and we're going to get into that later. Okay? All right. Using, dimensions is a quality way to move stuff around. All right, let's take a look. Let's add a couple more dimensions to this line. Just see, okay, it's 0.97 as far as height is concerned. Let's change that to 2 and see what it does. Perfect. It's going to change that. Let's say we want to move this line down a little bit. We can just add a sketch relations between this point and the origin and just pull it out sideways. So whichever way you pull after you've clicked 2 points determines the dimension that's going to be defined. So if I want to go from here down to here, I pull out sideways. I can also do, point to point. If I kind of tilt my cursor off at an angle, I can get that. There's all sorts of different ways. I can go straight up from there and tell how far over the line is. It's a good opportunity right here to show you guys what a broken sketch looks like. Now what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to put this dimension, which should be telling us how far away this line is from the origin. I'm going to put it on there when I already have a dimension in place showing us what that information is. So when you double up information, you get this. Okay. Now this is a warning box, and there are all sorts of different warning boxes that pop up when you're using SolidWorks. This is just one of many. As you get better and better with the program, you'll learn to read through them, and you'll also learn to ignore them as well. Okay, we're going to read this one. It says make dimension driven. What's a driven dimension? Adding this dimension will make the sketch overdefined or unable to solve. Do you want to add it as a driven dimension? Okay, so I don't know the exact terminology of driven dimension, but what I do know is that a driven dimension is just a dimension. It's the distance or the radius of a part or an entity in your part file that doesn't affect the entity that you're adding it to. Okay, and so I'm just going to actually make this a driven dimension so we can take a look at how that looks, and I'll hit escape to drop my dimension tool. Okay, so here we go. We've got an actual dimension here. This is a 2-inch dimension. There's 2 inches between this point and this line. Then we have a driven dimension. Okay, this one's gray. See, the color is different, so that's what should tell you that it's driven. This one is black and it's editable, so I can click on it and I can change it to something like 5, and it will move the part over. But this one, if I change this one and try to do anything, I get a ding in the face, and I get this warning box. It says the dimension selected is a driven dimension. Its value cannot be changed. Okay, so driven dimensions do have value if you're trying to just quickly eyeball a dimension of a sketch that you know is already fully defined or has dimensions on it already. And that can come in when you get into more complicated scenarios. But there you go, okay? Don't freak out when this program pops off at you. It does it all the time, and, you know, mistakes happen. The good news about SolidWorks is always the same. It's a parametric design program, so every move that you make in the program is totally editable, and it's very easy to go back and correct your mistakes. So, for instance, I just added a bunch of dimensions to this sketch, and you know, if I want to get back there and change or undo any of the things that I've done, I just go back to the sketch here. I right click on it. I edit this sketch. Everything comes back to life. I can take the dimension, I can take the driven dimension off, just highlighting it and hitting delete. I can take this dimension off, delete, excuse me. It's going to give me some crank here. All right, here we go. So let's just click on it and delete it. And now I can just move this around all I want, okay? If there's any sketch relations that I don't like, I can always just remove those. Total editability, that's what makes SolidWorks great. So when your boss calls you and says, hey, we really like your design, except the wall thickness needs to be, you know, 0.06 of a millimeter thinner, well, it's pretty easy to get back in there and just edit the dimensions, okay? Other programs, you're not going to get that sort of luxury. You're going to have to go all the way back to the drawing board and rebuild your whole model or whole portions of your model with new line work and new surfaces, and it can be quite a nightmare to get that phone call where you find out you're going to have to change something. Okay? All right. So that's your video on some more on dimensions, how to move stuff around using dimensions. There's lots more that you can do. I really recommend you just get in here, play around with the dimension tool. I mean, you can do angles. If you grab your dimension tool and click on 2 lines that have an angle, automatically this changes to an angle, and you can set the angle just like you would any other value. 45 exactly. Okay. There's a lot to do with dimensions. Okay. It gets even more complicated when you get into assemblies and so on. We're going to get to all that. But for now, just play around with adding yourself some dimensions onto your line work and try to enjoy it. Okay? All right. Listen, thanks a lot. In the next video, we're going to continue with our discussion on 2D surfacing. Sorry, not surfacing, but sketching, 2D sketching. We're going to explore tools like trim entities. We're going to talk about offset entities. We're going to talk about mirror entities. And we might talk about these puppies too. Okay? All right. Listen, thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.